A long time coming, but the moment has finally arrived. Chris Johnston, Frederik Andersen will be back between the pipes for the Maple Leafs. Sheldon Keefe telling us after practice on Tuesday the plan is to have him start Wednesday night against the Ottawa Senators. What's your biggest takeaway from the fact that the Leafs are making sure to get him some game action before the playoffs begin?
Well, I think most importantly here is it's a sign that Frederik Andersen feels good. You know, that the nature of his knee injury, Shawn, is that structurally for some time now, I think doctors were comfortable with him playing. But a lot of this absence, which is going to stretch just shy of 8 weeks, is because Frederik Andersen himself was having trouble being comfortable, bending his knee, putting the torque on it that position requires of a goaltender. And so, he wouldn't be getting this start if he didn't feel good. It comes with some salary cap implications for the team. I'm sure the NHL will be looking at it closely because, when they put him on long-term injured reserve just before the trade deadline, you kind of thought maybe he was done for the regular season. But this is good news for Frederik and for the Leafs that he can get in at least get one game before the playoffs because they're probably going to need both him and Jack Campbell once the postseason arrives.
Now, you mentioned the salary cap issues, and the Leafs will have to get creative in these final few games about how they get guys in the lineup. But at practice on Tuesday, the Leafs unveiled what could very well be their opening night roster for the playoffs. Just what was your biggest takeaway from what you saw on Tuesday?
Yeah, they kind of deked this out, having Zach Hyman in line rushes, Nick Foligno in line rushes, Riley Nash, who's yet to play for the team since being acquired from Columbus before the trade deadline. It's not ultimately going to be the lineup we see this week in their final regular season games. I think what probably stood out is Alex Galchenyuk in this formation was not in their top 12. He was wearing an extra sweater, which, I'd call a mild surprise, but given how deep the team is, if it gets fully healthy, something maybe to be expected there. And it's an interesting time for the Leafs. They're probably at least a week away from their playoff opener, so they have some time to play with this. I don't think anything that we saw in the lineup was set in stone, but you had Hyman back with Matthews and Marner on the top line. You had Foligno, slotting into a spot he hasn't actually played a game in beside Tavares and Nylander. And I would expect that that's something, for example, you might see in Ottawa on Wednesday. If Foligno's healthy to go, he's called a game time decision for that game. Maybe he finally gets to play somewhere else in the lineup because it does appear as though they want to try something new come playoffs.
Now, despite clinching their spot, the Leafs keep saying how important these final few games are for them. Just what do they look to accomplish?
I think they're worried about their seeding or cognizant of the fact, they've wrapped up the North Division, but, if they get 2 or 3 or 4 more points, they can leapfrog some teams which would become relevant if they were to get through to the third round of the playoffs. They also still have an outside chance at winning the President's Trophy. It would require them to win both the remaining games, and they need some help from the results involving Colorado and Vegas. But, the Leafs have been pretty, open, I guess, this season, I would say, about wanting to tick off the boxes. First, making the playoffs. Second, winning the division. And now they want to finish as high as they can in the overall standings. And they can still finish first, second, or third overall. And so, I think they're using that as motivation in these final 2 regular season games.
And Chris, the Maple Leafs have also been open in the past about not being happy with the way they finished.